I don't know if y'all have noticed, but social media is not a really fun place to be on right now, especially with the words that are used between people and all the different platforms. And it makes me reflect on the words that Matthew wrote in his gospel. And Matthew 12:36 reads this: "I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they speak." You see, because careless words are words that are spoken without deliberation. Matthew uses the Greek word argos, which means workless. It may imply ineffective and so much that it's a careless word because of its worthlessness. These words are better left unspoken, these idle words. And what's going on in this passage, to give you a little context of what Matthew is writing about, is that the Pharisees are doing whatever it takes to discredit Jesus. Whether it was their actions or their words, Jesus gives them this gracious warning about their words because of the verbal abuse that they've been given to him. And so, what does that mean for us? Because we're not Pharisees and we're not calling Jesus a heretic or telling him that he's demon-possessed, but these are very applicable words to us, especially in today's context. Because the words that we use gauge our spiritual condition. And so that we need to even remember much more so that when it comes to sin, even the idle words, the careless words that we use could be sinful. Think about that for a second. Because I'm addressing this today, the state of everything going on in our country, whether you see it, whether you don't see it, or you don't care, the words that we use as Christ followers reflect or do not reflect Christ-likeness in our lives to the world around us, especially on social media. You can look at this verse and substitute the word word and use the word type. So we would read something like this: "I tell you, on the day of judgment, people will give account for every careless word they type." So today you could say is a time to get you, me, all of us to think about the things that we're posting on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and the other platforms, especially in today's current context. The question we kind of need to ask ourselves are, how can I be Jesus on my keyboard through the things that I post? You see, these are the questions that we must consider before we click share or post. And so there are 4 things to ask ourselves, and the first one that we should always ask ourselves before we post anything is, will it edify? Will it build up? In 1 Corinthians 14:26, Paul says, "Let all things be done for building up." So how does that look for us though? Well, the question again is, how will what I post edify someone else? Will it increase their knowledge, their faith, or their love for others or for God? Or will it turn people away and shut people off? The second question is, how will this post help my witness? What am I communicating, and will it help those or hinder those to whom we are evangelizing at the current moment? Another question to consider is, are you showing off? And what that means is, whatever you're typing or posting, is it drawing attention to you, or is it more so drawing attention to the matter? You see, this will affect how others may view you, especially as a Christ follower, because no one wants to hear anyone else go online and say, "Look at how much I know," or "Let me show you how much I think I know." And the last question, or the last point that we should ask ourselves is, have we gotten counsel from a fellow believer of what we're about to post? Proverbs 12:31 says, it tells us that death and life are in the power of the tongue, meaning that we should seriously consider the things that we're going to post, which is why we should get feedback, especially if it's going to be something controversial. So instead of just quickly typing something in response that upsets you, because you don't want to get into the point to where you have to back up and say, "I didn't mean what I said." And so in the end, as I've said multiple times, the world is watching us right now. They're wanting to see how we respond to all of the things going on, so we must consider Jesus first in everything. We have to put our feelings aside and think and show Christ. We have to show mercy, show forgiveness, show grace, show love. And honestly, the best way when it comes to social posts is to not even post anything, but consider having a conversation with the person that you're responding to or what you're wanting to write about. You see, this is going to be a much more effective way to have a conversation with one-on-one as opposed to someone trying to read what you're typing on your keyboard. Actually, in this conversation, it might even soften your stance on the things when you hear that other person's voice. And so in the end, all of this negativity, the words of hate that are used in posts, these are all a distraction from the task at hand that we have as followers of Jesus, which is to make disciples of those who need salvation in Jesus Christ. So again, we must consider all these things before we post them on social media to show Jesus in our words to everyone.